White House Deputy Chief of Staff recently said that the Trump administration is actively looking at suspending habeas corpus. Last week you were asked about this, and I want to clarify your position because it's obviously really important to get this right. So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President Lincoln used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason.
Kristi Noem had a very bad Senate hearing. It's clear she has no idea what she's doing, and on the habeas corpus question, I think she knows what it is, but she's lying about it. We see this pattern across Trump's cabinet. But with Kristi Noem, it goes way deeper. The scandal around her department is much deeper, and just wait until you see some of the other ways that she is mismanaging that department. On this habeas corpus question, that is something that anybody in her position should know, which makes you wonder, why wouldn't she know that? Of course, the simple answer is she's ignorant, and that very well may be the case. But typically, if you're going into a Senate hearing, you're going to prepare. And you already know going into that there's been a conversation on the right around suspending habeas corpus to make it easier for Trump to illegally deport people. So I don't know if I'd necessarily buy that she doesn't know it. What she's doing is lying about how it can be suspended. That seems to be the more likely circumstance. And we really need to be honest with ourselves and each other about the consequences of doing that. That's not something that any president should do lightly. It has only been done 4 times in our nation's history. During the Civil War, during Reconstruction, in 1905 when the Philippines was a U.S. territory, and in Hawaii after Pearl Harbor. That last one is the most recent one. It happened in the 40s. And if you look at how we treated Japanese Americans during that time, not many of us feel great about it. It's not something that we look back on fondly. There's a lot of regret there. And that caution should be what guides us. But the Trump administration won't proceed with caution because they want to create a system where they can lock up anybody, no matter what. They're just starting with immigrants. Do you think it will stop there? They're also going after people who speak out about Gaza.
The Qataris in particular are behind a lot of the anti-Semitism you just described. Are they providing fuel that creates this fire?
You know, I'm not an expert in this area. I think that there's validity to what he has said, but I also think that we've got a lot of influences here, and we've got a lot of people that have facilitated this that have a different agenda. Some of these universities have even barred law enforcement officers from coming on campus and haven't even allowed there to be basic law and order on the areas that they're responsible for. So we're going to continue to do our investigations and make sure that what the Department of Homeland Security is responsible for, it will be done with integrity for the way that Congress laid out that programs should work, and the opportunities that we have to allow people to come into this country, learn, and to be a part of a country that promotes freedom and liberty and that everybody is equal. That's not what Harvard is doing, and that's not what we're seeing in some of these college campuses.
Could you foresee, or are you now considering similar moves with other universities like Columbia that has allowed Jewish students to be threatened and made unsafe?
Absolutely. We are absolutely. This should be a warning to every other university to get your act together. Get your act together, because we are coming to make sure that these programs that you are facilitating an environment where students can learn, where they're safe, and that they're not discriminated against based on their race or their religion. Anti-Semitism will not be stood for, and any participation with a country or an entity or a terrorist group that hates America and perpetuates this kind of violence, we will stop it, and we will not allow that to happen, especially in places where our kids need to grow up and really learn what this country is about, what the world is about, and what it means to promote freedom and liberty.
They are proudly celebrating violating people's First Amendment rights. This is the foreign policy and moral issue of our time. People, rightfully and understandably, are outraged. How does the government respond? How does the so-called First Amendment-loving Republican Party respond? By threatening to detain or imprison people for speaking up. We've seen it across college campuses nationwide. They're cracking down on foreign students. They're detaining them. They want to deport some of them. All of this flies flies in the face of the First Amendment. You don't have to agree with their speech, but you have to recognize their right to say it. It is a slow creep toward authoritarianism, and that's why we need to speak out and stand up against this now. And in the process, she is burning through our tax dollars to do this. Look at this perfect summary from Chris Murphy.
I say this with seriousness and respect, but your department is out of control. You are spending like you don't have a budget. You're on the verge of running out of money for the fiscal year. You are illegally refusing to spend funds that have been authorized by this Congress and appropriated by this committee. Let's start with your spending. You are on track to trigger the Anti-Deficiency Act. That means you are going to spend more money than you have been allocated by Congress. This is a rare occurrence, and it is wildly illegal. Your agency will be broke by July, over 2 months before the end of the fiscal year. You may not think that Congress has provided enough money to ICE, but the Constitution and the federal law does not allow you to spend more money than you have been given or to invent money. And this obsession with spending at the border, as the chairwoman mentioned, has left the country unprotected elsewhere.
Hey, where's Doge when you need them? What happened to caring about waste, fraud, and abuse? What happened to caring about the deficit or the debt? Suddenly, they don't seem to care when Kristi Noem is burning through her entire department's funding. Reckless spending, that's something I thought conservatives cared about. Unless, of course, they're the ones doing it. So not only is what she's arguing and what she's trying to do illegal, a total affront to the Constitution, she's also setting money on fire to do it. Why should we have to pay for that? I didn't sign up for that. I would like my tax dollars to go to something meaningful, something with purpose, something constructive, funding systems and safety nets that look out for one another, not create a living hell for other people. And you would think that the Trump administration would be more cognizant of how people perceive them. And while some people might see her in a negative light because of how reckless she is with her spending, most people are going to be off-put by what they are doing. Because at the core of many Americans is a conscience. And millions of Americans have seen what the Trump administration is doing, and they are disgusted by it. This isn't just a liberal or progressive take either. People of all political stripes can see what the Trump administration is doing. They see the barbarism, they see the violence, and they see the cruelty, and they're disgusted. Even if they think this country needs a stronger immigration system, they still don't want to see people suffer. And as a consequence, Trump's public approval rating has plummeted. From his mishandling of the economy to tariffs to immigration, he is really unpopular, and he's just getting started. So the more people speak out and the more people stand up, the more pressure we can put on this administration to change course, to make it more difficult for them to violate the Constitution, to violate people's rights, and hopefully together we can create a better tomorrow.